We're doing it live! I love that. This is Heretical Weekend's number 14 Christian movie doubleheader show. And I am Mischievous Heathen, joined today by Run Gabby Guy Run.
Howdy.
Heavy Holler. We're going to have some people joining in late. Probably Turtle. Potato is pretty mythical at this point, so he's from Iceland, so I just figure, maybe that's how they do things. And Fox is apparently stuck in traffic, so I can only berate him via Google Plus right now until, if he can ever make it home. But he says he's going to miss the show today, so hopefully things will clear up for him. So we got talking. I believe it was Gabby that watched God's Not Dead, or was it Turtle? Was it you, Gabby?
I watched it. I think he watched that one as well. But
you watched it first, and then we started talking about it after a hangout or something, right?
Yeah. And
we talked about it for maybe, a few minutes, and then we realized that we had a lot to say on how bad this movie was. And this movie isn't, it's not new news or anything. It came out in 2014, and it was actually a big sleeper hit kind of thing, because apparently a bunch of Christians went and saw it and were like, yay, us. But they're making a sequel.
Yeah.
And with Melissa Joan Hart, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, that's what I gathered from the interwebs.
Yeah, and which, if those of you are too young to remember, she was Sabrina the Teenage Witch, which was a show that was a billion years ago that nobody really cared about, but was mildly famous if you were an adolescent. So, that's a pretty good synopsis of that, right? But anyway, they're making another one, which, I was reading a lot of articles that said, in 2014, that said, the year that Hollywood found God. I'm not sure if you saw any of those titles or anything, those headlines, but it worried me because, that was the year that Noah came out, Son of God, Heaven is for Real, and all these other, Christian sort of themed movies came out. But God's Not Dead stuck out because it was essentially a big, rah-rah propaganda movie, and there were so many things wrong with it that we wanted to at least donkey punch it before it goes away completely and the new one comes out. So, and if those of you don't know what a donkey punch is, go to Urban Dictionary. So, I kind of got some categories, I guess, we can discuss separately, so we're not just ranting on for 10 minutes at a shot. But both Heavy Holler, you said you saw it, and Gabby, of course, as I just mentioned, saw it. So to hit up each of you first, Heavy, since you're the guest, I'm going to go with you. What did you think of the overall story and or theme?
Oh, the God's Not Dead?
Yeah.
You look at it one way, and I could see it being realistic. Here's a guy that was a Christian, the professor. He was a Christian. He lost someone he loved very much in his life, and he thought that God let him down. So he was pissed off at God. He still believed, apparently, in the movie. He still believed, but he was so angry. But I think the thing with trying to show he was an atheist was wrong. If he was trying to be shown as an atheist, it was completely inaccurate, because he wasn't. He really was not an atheist. So when they're trying to show this as Christians versus atheism, no, that had nothing to do with it. He was just a pissed off Christian. That's what it was. He was angry at God. He was not portraying what a true atheist is.
Gotcha.
In my opinion. And so they did a disservice there. It was a very biased movie all the way around.
What did you think of all the other mini arcs, all the little stories of all the secondary characters?
It was overkill.
So
at the end, everything wrapped up and came out all roses. Even though the guy died, he went to be with the Lord. Give me a break.
By the way, full spoilers for the movie.
Sorry, maybe y'all should have told me if I should have spoiled it or not.
No, that's fine.
But it was too good of a movie. It was too goodish, two shoes, two rainbows and flowers and all this at the end, even though it was tragic at the end in a way. It wasn't realistic at all.
What are you talking about? He's with God now.
Yeah. I want to be a Santa Claus when I die. So.
What did you think of the cameo from the Duck Dynasty guy?
That was a waste of time.
That budget could have went to something else.
Well, I'm thinking, okay, they're going to throw him in there, and after hearing the father, the patriarch of the family, and stuff he's been saying, in the past couple months and over time, why did they bother? I mean, to them, they thought it was, oh yeah, we got this guy, man. They got these traditional family values and all this stuff, and we're going to throw him in there and kind of add to it. Maybe for them they thought it was a good move. For me, I thought it was a dick move. Really.
Gotcha. I'm sorry, go ahead, Heavy.
I'm not just saying sorry, but I mean that's what I thought.
Yeah, no worries.
Why didn't they get Pat Boone? Is he still around? He could come in and sing or something.
Yeah. Did anyone? I mean, for me, when the Duck Dynasty guy came on screen and with his wife, and the first thought in my head was, oh yeah, he has money. Yeah, I mean, really. I mean, I don't know. But anyway, Gabby, go ahead. What do you think of the overall stories or themes or anything you want to hit on? Just let loose.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that annoyed me the most, we'll start there, was just how the philosophy professor was portrayed, and that, in the academic community at this university, that, his behavior was accepted and even embraced, and it wouldn't be, because no philosophy department would tolerate that. That's not the point of philosophy. The point of philosophy is to present kind of constructive ways of thinking, to introduce people to kind of the rules of thought and language, and then also to present arguments and to present kind of either the development of arguments and ideas through history, or to present kind of the best arguments, the most robust arguments from differing sides and opinions and things. Not to say this is the right thing and this is how you have to do it. And absolutely no professor anywhere in any field would make his students sign a paper saying this is a fact. It's ridiculous.
Well, I don't want to interrupt you, but we were going to play the trailers for the movie to bring people up to speed, but they haven't seen it in a while or haven't seen it. So do you mind if I cut you halfway out through your
No, go for it, and welcome, Turtle.
Hey Turtle.
Hey,
Here. We're discussing God's Not Dead, which came out obviously in 2014. In light of the sequel that was just announced, we decided to start with that movie. So I'm gonna screen share the trailer so we can all remember just how bad this movie was. 5 million hits, crazy.
Here you are. Explain that to me.
What do you say to people that are offended by your show because you pray to Jesus in every episode?
We disown him, he'll disown us.
A 12-year-old watches his mother dying of cancer. God who would allow that is not worth believing in. Life is really a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury and signifying nothing.
Name? Wheaton. Josh Wheaton. Philosophy 150. You might want to think about a different instructor. Come on, man, it can't be that bad. Think Roman Coliseum, people cheering for your death.
I'm Professor Radisson. This is Philosophy 150. I would like to bypass census debate altogether and jump to the conclusion, which every sophomore is already aware of, there is no God. All that I require from each of you is that you fill in the papers I've just given you with 3 little words. God is dead. There's something wrong.
I can't do what you want. I'm a Christian.
You cannot bring yourself to admit that God is dead, and you will need to defend the antithesis.
Think of Jesus as my friend. You think Jesus is God? I don't want to disappoint him. So your acceptance of this challenge may be the only meaningful exposure to God and Jesus that I would have. It's me. He's not dead. I don't want anyone to get talked out of believing in him just because this professor thinks they should.
Mr. Wheaton, are you ready? We're going to put God on trial.
If you think you're smarter than me, do not try to humiliate me in front of my students.
In that classroom, there is a God. I am.
This experiment is over. You get to decide who the most important person in your life is. Me, Professor Ramsey.
I have to do this thing. Like it's something that God wants me to do. I can't just turn away from it.
You just want to ensnare them in your primitive superstition.
What I want is for them to make their own choice. That's what God wants.
You have no idea how much I'm going to enjoy failing you.
Yeah, who are you really looking to fail? Me? Or God?
God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, going like a liar. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, going like a liar.
Science supports his existence. You know the truth. Why do you hate us? It's a very simple question. Why do you hate God?
God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside.
It was that good.
That was pretty much the whole movie.
That was. That was the Cliff Notes version of that movie.
Yeah.
They skipped a handful of characters, but yeah, that was the main thrust of it there.
Yeah, there was so much wrong with that.
All right, Gabby, go ahead and continue, please.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was the main problem that I had with it. Was just it's so unrealistic. There's no foundation in reality for the whole premise of the film, and that's the annoying thing. I mean, when I was in philosophy and starting there as a sophomore in college, when I decided to make that my major, I was convinced that all of my professors were Christians because they were so patient, because they were so what's the word? They would give. Tolerant? Yeah, well, they were so tolerant. They were tolerant of students that had, faith. They were what's the word when you kind of charitable? They would have present the best arguments for theism. They would present the best arguments for atheism. But from being a theist myself, I was like, these arguments for theism address all the major problems, and so I was able to, kind of still hold on to what I believed because they were presenting the best counter apologetics or apologetics, for all of the different positions and criticisms of theism and whatnot. So, this whole idea that philosophy professors come out just blasting and insisting that students come away with X belief is completely not true.
What do you think?
I also like that it seemed like he's just going to skip over whatever portion of the class that was supposed to be as long as they all agreed to it. It's like what course does that? Like in mathematics, as long as you all agree that this is how multiplication works, we're just going to skip over that. What?
Hey, Turtle. Oh, never mind. Okay, never mind. Hey, so what did you think of the side characters, Gabby? All the other, of the stories other than the main one, and how they were handled.
Well, very one-dimensional. They were there as props, basically. The Asian guy. One of the things that I found really kind of laughable was when they're first signing up for classes, and the Asian student, I think he was Chinese, came up, and he said he was from whatever, Shanghai or something, and the register person was taken aback by that, like, oh, I can't believe that someone is here from another country. Like, no college admittance people or registers would be caught off guard. Our universities are all, even small colleges, have international students that. I mean, that's a part of the university experiences.
I don't recall that where he said he was from Shanghai. Did he say Shanghai specifically?
He said some Chinese city. I think it was Shanghai, but it might have been somewhere else. But
it's definitely somewhere in China. But
yeah.
Yeah, the whole movie is very much written by an alien trying to mimic humanity. That's how the whole movie comes off to me. Like, it's just like this weird kind of like, oh, this is kind of like a version of reality, but not anything that anybody would really recognize. Like, just the behavior of the people, like even like his girlfriend, who's supposed to be like this Christian character, like even as an atheist, like hearing like that some professor wants you to sign this piece of paper that says God's not dead. Like, to me, that's fucked up. Like, what? No.
Why would you do that?
Yeah, fuck that professor. but his girlfriend, who is apparently a Christian, and his parents. So I don't think we meet his parents, but it's implied that everyone thinks, yeah, we'll just go ahead and sign this piece of paper. You don't think that's weird?
Well, I guess we're moving to Turtle regarding the story and theme. So you didn't know this, but we were going from person to person asking that question.
Sorry. I came in late.
No worries, man. No worries. You didn't know. Yeah. So since you're at it, give us your overall take on the story. And it could be from a technical standpoint, or the themes, any of the, the secondary storylines, just what you thought overall.
I thought it was great.
That's fine. It was great. It was great. Good night, everybody.
No, well, I mean, like I said, it just feels very alien. It feels like it's, written by somebody who's trying to force feed a perspective down people's throats and doesn't really have a good grasp on reality. I will say that I did think that they did a better job than I thought they were going to of handling all of the many characters that they introduced, in terms of like having all of them play parts in the story, because they kept on introducing characters, and I was like, well, how's that person going to play into this? And they all did in some little way, so I will give them credit for that. Yeah, that's kind of my general overall thoughts on it.
Thank you for that. I guess it's my turn. I agree. The only one bright spot in this whole movie was the editing, in that, or the way in which they either tied the characters together for screenplay purposes. It wasn't too abrupt, and it seemed to make sense. That being said, that is the only redeemable quality of that movie. So let me start by saying the main story. So this dude goes in, and I gotta say, as unrealistic as that class was, I would have gotten an A immediately, because I would have, without question, I would have been like, all right, that's what I gotta do, sweet, done and done. But first of all, Hercules is teaching my class, which is already distracting enough, and I feel bad for the guy because he had some horrible disease and it almost killed him, and so, time and a life-threatening disease, does not age thee well. However, he did was scoring college poontang, which was always good as a professor. But if you notice, I mean, he's the only character that actually admits that he's atheist. I'm getting into the cast specifically here.
Doesn't the girl also say she's an atheist?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, the reporter.
Yeah.
But Dean Cain's character doesn't, for sure. I don't recall him at all. Are there any other atheist characters? Oh, the portrayal of the intellectuals.
Right, all the other professors.
There's a very anti-intellectual sort of vibe going on during the dinner party, where she shows up and she's like, "I believe in Jesus," and he's like, "Yeah, okay, I told you to shut up already," or whatever he told her.
Yeah, well, and he was apologizing to all of the other professors, and they were giving her bad looks, like.
Yeah. They had their glasses of wine. They're around the fireplace. They're all, they're very into themselves. G-Mammo called them all little G's, all little gods worshiping themselves. And she comes in and it's like, "I believe in Jesus." And you know what? I mean, as unrealistic as that scene was, I would have gave her a weird look too, because.
What are you supposed to do with that?
But why would you do right? Way to derail the conversation, honey. But I mean, and of course he was made, to look like an asshole and, talk down to her and this and that. Which also begs the question: how did he get her to begin with? You go in. I mean, it's like a hodgepodge relationship. Like they wrote it that way, but if she was religious, did she not? Was she questioning her faith when they got together? Did they ever mention that? Is that how he got her?
They didn't broach that topic at all. I don't think.
And she was a student of his.
Yeah.
So did she write "God's Not Dead"? Did she had to have to pass the class, or how would he ever date? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
God is dead is what they had to write.
Or God is dead. I'm sorry. Yeah. but you know what I mean? Like you would think. The Muslim people are just I don't even know how they can write that with just a clear conscience. I mean, who would buy their kid an iPod? I mean, that's really the biggest crime out of everything. But she was listening to, and then who listens to Bible on their iPod? But that's a whole other story.
It was Franklin Graham, right?
What?
It was a sermon by Franklin Graham, or a book by Franklin Graham, I think.
Oh, is it really? Oh,
yeah.
see, I don't even know.
Well, you know who listens to that kind of stuff? Teenagers.
Yeah, right.
The people that go to like the Joel Osteen mass concert stuff. But anyway, so he beats her up because she's listening to Christianity stuff, and then he kicks her out of the house, and then we never find out what happens to her after that. She meets the lead white guy at the concert, and everything's okay.
Yeah, I was kind of under the impression that they were implying that those two were gonna get together, because he lost his girlfriend and she's a lone woman in the world, so she needs a man. So
the other part I had was his girlfriend, right? Who would, I guess, if you were online and talking to Beckel or whatever, they would consider her not a true Christian, because she's supposed to be a Christian character, I think. Right, like you guys said, but yeah, she's all she's telling him not to fight the professor on this.
Right.
So she's not a real Christian. Dean Cain's all about himself and money and power. Callous, doesn't care that his girlfriend has cancer, essentially.
Yeah, his character was so completely unrealistic. Like nobody's like that.
Right. No. His character was like satire from like 1980s, like the power of money, or whatever, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, all he lacked was like the handlebar mustache or something, with curls on the end, and rub his hands together as he ties up the damsel in distress on the railroad tracks.
I kept thinking fucking Superman's a dick, but but then his girlfriend was even written. If he was bad, his girlfriend was written stupidly, because she's basically speaks out. She's an atheist character, and she goes and interviews the Duck Dynasty guy and questions him, and then she has cancer. She's having a hard time, obviously.
The Duck Dynasty guy who's got nothing wrong in his life, and he's just living the happiest life anyone's ever lived.
Right. And then you're doing well when you can dress like that and look like that and not give a shit. You're just like, all right, I'm rich, motherfuckers. But except for Holler, because Holler has a sexy beard, but we all know that. Way sexier than Trey's ever was, by the way. So, you know, he was in there just to drop a spot for the trailer, I think, and like at the very end, you know. And I don't know who those singer guys were, but
the Newsboys.
Yeah, they've been around forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were also the other celebrity drop spot in the trailer, so you can like sort of, oh yeah, this movie's legit. They have a budget, which they used all of the Duck Dynasty guy, I believe, but certainly wasn't an actor.
Is he actually a Duck Dynasty guy? I don't ever watch the
Yeah.
show. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't know if he was actual Duck Dynasty or if he was just.
Yeah, he helps run stuff.
Oh, okay. I've never watched it, so.
And I'm sorry if I'm going long here. There's just so much I'm trying to pack into like this short amount of time, but. You know, they pray for her, you know, and she for healing or whatever to get her through it, and even realizing that God gave her the cancer to begin with, because that's all part of His plan. The last but not least is the Asian kid, I think, who I thought was gay, like in the first opening scene, because he walked like a douche-tard, like I heard that they're, you know, and you know, could they get a more like generic fob type Asian character, you know, like his dad is like. He calls his dad, who's like some power guy, and he's all, "Why you bothering me with this?" And I was like, "Dude, can you? I mean, really?"
Yeah, he was freaking out because the Chinese government might be listening in or something, right?
And I'm just like, "Shut up, kid! Your dad's paying for your college in America. You know, just suck it up, dude. And do what he says. My parents didn't pay for my college. You know what I mean? Just suck it up." But you know, the main character who is the douchiest of all. Not because of his bad acting, it was his haircut. But his portrayal of like this god warrior type who's, you know, the kid only has one expression, and he used it throughout that entire movie. And Kevin Sorbo is way over the top. You know, you even see the trailer. He follows after the kid and spins him around and is like, you're not going to make a fool of me. I mean, what teacher's going to put his hands on a student? You know what I mean? Like, it's just so over the top, you know, and...
yeah, and he's threatening him, not physically, but, you know...
Right.
He's trying to intimidate him constantly. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm sorry. And the second part of this discussion was the characters, which I just melded my two together, and I'll get to you guys next. But... The whole idea that he can debate him in the end is just ridiculous. The kid's arguments were shite, and I don't know who wrote those arguments for that kid, but, you know, I have a couple of friends who were Christian on Facebook and stuff like that, and they were in theaters, and when the kid utters the line, you know, how can you hate someone that you don't believe in? Like, people were like, yes! Yes! And people were clapping and cheering in the theater, like, yes! The Bible was right. They all believe in God. Yay! You know, and they were like, yeah, like seriously cheering. I read this in several things, and so this is the kind of thing that, you know, makes me want to facepalm, and just poorly written all around, script, characters, plot, and the biggest thing that bothers me is we don't find out whatever happens to anybody. And where does the former Muslim girl live? Is she in a shelter? Like what happens?
God is good all the time.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot about that part.
Oh yeah, those guys were
the tie-in. So those two characters, the bromance guys, were the tie-in for every other character, right? Because they all had to talk to them at one point or another, didn't they? At some point, right? So the fact that someone's dying on the street, and you were like, you start proselytizing to the guy, I'd be like, "Fuck you, dude! When's that ambulance getting here? Like, what are you doing?" And then he goes, "Oh, it's a good day. He's with God now." Shut the fuck up. You know, that's a horrible tragedy that just happened. And wasn't it Dean Cain's character that hit him?
I don't know.
Was it? I don't know.
I don't know if it was Dean Cain's character that hit him.
I thought for a split second that the movie was going to get interesting and have them accidentally, because you knew he was going to get hit at that moment. But I thought they were going to have the heroes there accidentally hit him. You know. Oh
yeah.
But no, they couldn't have. They're too good of Christians. They wouldn't accidentally.
Was the African guy a doctor? I don't remember. Was the African guy a doctor?
No, I don't think so. I think he was just a missionary.
Yeah.
Because he was touching him. And he goes, his lung is punctured. He's going to bleed out. So he read
the script.
Yeah.
Because he read the
he had this pretty specific diagnosis. He's like, his lungs punctured. He has, his internal bleeding.
it's filling up with blood or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, how would you know that?
He read
Sorry.
the script.
Yeah, and now I'm done for now until I think of something else. Heavy, you had something to say. I ran into the characters, so you can go ahead and do whatever.
Well, I was just thinking back on stuff because I'd forgot a lot about the movie, really. So I made a few little notes, as y'all was talking. And you already covered a part about the professor being coming on so strong. He would have been fired, or something. There was one part where the professor opened up to the kid and told him what was wrong, why he was the way he was, pretty much, because his mother died, and as a child, and he was so hurt by it. And so he started hating God. Why would God let this happen? And on and on and on. And then the kid turns around and in class blurts it all out. I mean, that was so wrong on his part. Here he is supposed to be this Christian, goody-goody Christian. And then he blurts out something that this professor had confided into him and opened up and told him this stuff. And he blurts it right out. I mean, that was wrong. That was so wrong right there.
Yeah.
There was the movie could have been better. I have to say, when I think about it, the movie could have been better if it had been more honest in a lot of places. If instead of being about atheists and the Christian thing, like I mentioned before, just left that out. Atheism had nothing to do with this movie. Not really, except for the girl with cancer, maybe. But the professor, no. He still believed. He just hated God. He still believed he existed because he still hated him. That was wrong right there. I kind of think of it as a dig at religion, not atheism, because here they're portraying this guy. He was a professor and he's supposedly an atheist, but all along he's still a Christian. And you find this out. This is what a thing that faith can do to a person. They can be so filled with hate and still believe. There was nothing there, and he got no support or whatever, from other Christians to help him through this, through the death of his mother and everything. Because I'm pretty sure there were people that knew he was a Christian as a kid, and they could have helped him to make it through that time of tragedy when he lost his mother, and to maybe help him kind of understand some things that maybe he didn't understand about his faith. In that, and then when the kid blurted out the secret about the mother dying and all that, that made Christianity there kind of look not so good.
Did he actually blurt it out? I don't remember.
Yes, in class, in front of God and everybody. Yeah, he said, "Well, the reason why, and you hate God and this and that," and he just blurted it all out there. I mean, that was a breach of trust, big time. The Muslim thing, radical Muslims, yeah, I could see something like that happen, realistically. But the only thing I can really say, kind of in a good way, sort of, that there was one little shot, and I think a lot of people missed it, and they actually kept it in the movie, where the father, he threw her out, but then the character, you could kind of get the feeling that he really regretted doing what he thought was right. There was just one little moment in there where it showed him regretting what he'd done. Now, that's how I understood it. They could have had them as more moderate Muslims. They could have done that, but no, they didn't. They should have had Dallas Home and Praise. That would have been better. I really liked them when I was a Christian. They were a really excellent group. But I think if the characters had been portrayed as more honest, as real people, like they could have.
It wouldn't be propaganda.
Well, yeah. Because there are a lot of Christians that maybe or whatever had been around, and they wouldn't be like some of these characters were. They were a bit over the top. Of course, I could see where they wanted to help somebody through a difficult time and stuff like that, but there was just so much about it that was dishonest. Like the guy gets hit by the car and they're, "Oh, let me read you your last rites, my son," or something like that. No. Dial 911. Don't sit there and try to pray over him.
Yeah, they even go as far as saying like the ambulance isn't going to get there in time.
Yeah.
How do you know that?
You read the script.
Well, like you said, the script could have been better. You know, I'm babbling and repeating myself. Next.
Yeah, Gabby, I think we're in the character acting portion.
Yeah, I mean, overall the acting was really, really bad. It just everything was so over dramatic, and everybody's reactions. The Muslim girl being discovered to have something Christian on her iPod by her little brother, and she's horrified and is like, telling him, "Don't you ever tell!" And then the dad, when he finds out and confronts her, and what does he do? Does he hit her? I forget, but
yeah.
But then, like in the next moment, he's all regretful and going through this total emotional turmoil, and it just everything is just so over the top. Does he actually believe what he believes, or is he a Christian deep inside too?
Everyone is.
You're right. I don't know. The whole how do they not see just how myopic their whole viewpoint is? Not everybody in the world believes the things that you believe. That baffles me. I don't know.
Well, you only have to look at your YouTube interactions over the past couple of weeks.
One scene that also got me and I thought was just kind of silly and dumb. The two guys that we talked about that are in that end scene, they pray to have the car start, which it doesn't work that way. I mean, if your car is not starting, unless you do something to make it start, it's not going to start. It's either, doesn't have the fuel that it needs, it's not getting the spark that it needs, or it's not getting oxygen to the fuel to ignite the fuel to start the car's engine. I mean, those are the things that have to be addressed before it's going to start. Praying for it is not going to change it. And it goes along with that scene in the final act with the newsboys praying for that girl's cancer. I mean, if prayer worked, we wouldn't need cancer treatments and things. Nobody would rush their children to the hospital. They would rush the children to the church. It doesn't work.
Yeah, what would be great if those two guys were in the cancer ward just telling people, no, this is a good thing. You're suffering, you're in pain 24/7, and you're dying of a brain tumor. No, it's good. You'll be with God soon.
Right.
There'd be like 30 chemo-induced middle fingers all up at once, dude.
Yeah. Well, and the whole idea that all of these people secretly believe, and that just if you say the right words, films like this inspire a culture of idiots who are going to be armed and go out into the world thinking, if I just tell them that Jesus loves them and offer to pray for their cancer or whatever, that everything's going to turn out like it does in this movie. Well, it doesn't. It doesn't work. I mean, I've got 30 years of experience trying to make myself believe that kind of stuff worked. Believing for the first probably 20 years, and then 10 years of trying to say, well, maybe I'm just doing it wrong or something, and then finally being, no, this doesn't work, and it hasn't worked for anyone ever, which is why you have to make up stuff. So, anyways, oh, then the last thing that I have is just that my hope after watching this was that it inspires a kind of a generation of evangelical children to run into their philosophy classrooms in college, expecting to have this experience, but realizing how different everything is, because I think that would be at least a wake-up call for them that, that the world is not the way that it was portrayed to them. So that's all I've got.
I'm still bugged because we never find out if he passes the class. I mean, you don't get an automatic A just for defeating the professor. He says, he will fail you if you fail, but he still has to pass the freaking class.
Well, the professor's dead, so everybody gets an A.
Well, that's true. I forgot, yeah. All right, the professor's dead, but he still has to go pass the class. The chick still probably maybe will die of cancer. The Muslim girl's homeless, and the blonde, his ex-girlfriend, is probably shagging some other guy. But I don't know any sophomore that in college that wouldn't have been like, yeah, babe, yeah, I told you to do that just so he can still get some, But there's no resolution in any of the storylines, which really bothers me. I don't know if the Asian kid got cut off, from talking back to his dad or whatever.
Maybe it's just me, but I was not disappointed at all with the lack of resolution for any of these shitty characters.
All right, there you go. Turtle, do you have any closing words? We're going to move on to Left Behind, because apparently between the three of us, we saw 2 different Left Behind movies. So.
Uh-oh. Well, that's okay. I have a feeling they're probably equally as good. But yeah, I'll just sum up, and some of you guys said some of the stuff that I kind of wanted to mention, but I'll just hit on it a little bit more. But one thing that I was thinking about after watching this movie is, and it kind of falls in line with something Gavagai was kind of talking about, is just how when Christians watch these kind of propaganda movies, and I remember seeing, not like as high profile ones, but like in youth group and stuff like that, watching, and usually probably not like feature length films, but videos that kind of had this kind of propaganda stuff in it, and even then, it just kind of nothing ever feels authentic about it. But I was thinking about this movie and how it's kind of a movie about standing up as a Christian and taking a stance and defending what you believe. And I think this movie is a good example of how Christians view themselves and their stance against the world, as it were. But the reality is something slightly different. I think the reality of when a Christian stands up for their beliefs, it looks a lot more like the video we were discussing last time about the lady complaining about the gay marriage situation. That's a lot more in line with how Christians look often when they stand up for what they believe, more so than this Josh character winning over all of his fellow classmates, and I don't think he gets applause. Maybe he gets applause. I don't remember, but they all stand up and support him at the end of that whole adventure. But that's how Christians, I think, see themselves or see this fight playing out in their heads, when in reality you just look ridiculous and out of touch with the world when you actually stand up for what you believe in, when your belief is something as unfounded as Christianity. So that was the first thing I wanted to mention. And then another thing kind of along the same lines is, and Gavagai kind of touched on this, but like similarly, like the guys in the car, like their whole trying to get the car to work. And again, it's like in a movie, yeah, you can have that play out that way, where the car doesn't work and then you pray for it and then suddenly it works. But in reality, it's the same thing. It doesn't work that way. But I feel like these kind of propaganda movies help reinforce people's beliefs, even though they know in their head what they're watching is fiction, that it still reinforces in their head, oh, this is an example of prayer working. And then one last thing about Dean Cain, is that right?
Yeah.
He's the business guy.
Yeah. Just like it's just weird to me. I guess it's not weird because I should be expected, I guess. But like he's a hard to believe character, but then at the end he seems to be aware of himself, but because he's aware that the things he's doing are bad. Like he says this to his mother, but I don't think people think that way. I think they're like, when you're a horrible person, I think there's kind of two categories you fall into, and one is that you think your actions are justified, and then the other is you're a sociopath and you don't think about the effect you have on other people. And clearly he's neither of those two according to this movie, because he seems to be aware that he's doing these bad things and that they're bad and that they have negative effects on other people. So, like, I just, but again, it falls into the category of what Christians believe is the reality as opposed to what is the reality. But that's all I have to say on that movie, I guess.
That was amazing, actually.
Well said, Turtle.
Well said, Turtle.
Yeah, there was one last little thing I wanted to throw in, and I mentioned it in the chat. At the end of it, the mother sat up and she started channeling God.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there was that, and like she was talking about the car, praying over the car. And suddenly it starts at the exact time. Of course,
Right.
it was all a plot device, but like you said, things like that, and the thing where the mother started speaking, channeling or whatever, that kind of reinforces some of this stuff, which you're like, okay, does this stuff really happen? No.
Right.
I mean, if stuff like that really happened, hey, document it and show it. And of course, even then we'd still doubt. But anyway, that was all. It could have been better. The whole movie could have been handled better.
Well, I remember mentioning this to Gava Guy, said, just that afternoon she couldn't remember that she ate chicken earlier, so why would he take anything she said seriously? I mean, his attitude for the whole movie was, she crazy, she doesn't know what's going on, and then, like, she has some sort of, like,
lucid moment.
Channeling lucid moment, right, exactly. It's like, if that happened to me, I would slowly back out of that room and be like, whoa, what's going on? But anyway, Gava Guy's going to end on a critic review that he found, I think.
Yeah. Well, there's on Rotten Tomatoes there are just some blurbs, and I just wanted to read
they're funny.
a couple of these that are pretty funny. The proselytizing concept immediately loses credibility because no teacher at a legitimate academic institution would make that demand, augmenting it with the threat of failure. And that was from Susan Granger from SSG Syndicate. Mike McCahill from The Guardian says, "Ban this filth." That's his blurb.
I actually read his full review.
Did you?
That was the last sentence in his review.
Yeah. Well, and the rest of it is basically like synopsis. I think I read that one too, but lambasts reason and celebrates Christianity unabashedly, which is a shame because it has an opportunity to really challenge its target audience. Which that's not their point, I guess, but
nah, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know, but there's some good reviews, and I actually was going to read this other more lengthy review, but we don't have to go into that. People can read the reviews on their own. They're kind of funny, and I think some critics really do point out just some really blatant just the filmmaking in general is not well done for that movie. Aside from all of the problems that it has, just being a propaganda film essentially, and not taking the subject matter seriously or realistically at all.
Yeah, I mean, just bad script, bad screenplay, cardboard characters.
Yep.
They're a parody of what Christians think, or some Christians think. Makes this an overall horrible movie. I guess if I was a reviewer, I would give it a 1.5. Maybe
Out of what?
5.
Oh.
Out of 5. I'd give
Out
it
of 5.
1.5.
Yeah.
That would be me. But
I don't think I could. I don't think if I was a reviewer, I don't think I could review it just because it's. I would go into it jaded anyway, but.
Yeah.
You know you like it. Okay, so
I kind of love it.
we're gonna move on to Left Behind in our second half here. Are you guys able to stomach both versions of the trailers, or did you guys want?
So who saw which one?
I
saw
saw
the Nic Cage one.
I told Gabba Guy and I had a conversation yesterday where we're talking, and I'm like, yeah, Nic Cage. He goes, yeah, I'm halfway through the movie. When does Nic Cage come in? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's the star of the movie. And he's like, what? And then he realized he was watching the Kirk Cameron version from 2000.
Oh, man. But this morning I got up early and actually watched the Nic Cage version as well. So I'm a glutton for punishment.
I will play a small portion of like a few seconds of the Kirk Cameron one just so you can see how bad it is, film wise, and then we'll watch the Nic Cage one.
Conspiracy.
International this. So listening. All of the money, honey.
For world domination. Of Soviet generation.
That's the Antichrist.
Now, until an instant, the world is changed. Cloud Temperatures, in association with Namesake Entertainment, proudly present Kirk Cameron. This is insane. People don't just disappear. Brad Johnson. I know we're wrong and right here. Chelsea Noble.
They're not here. They're not anywhere.
And Clarence Gilliard.
I knew your message. I knew your word.
Alright. Oh, wait. Yeah! Get those camels! So that was the Kirk Cameron version. And if you're all are still awake and not wanting to kill me, here's the Nic Cage version.
Hi, Mom. Chloe, welcome home. So is everything set for Dad's surprise party? He got called into work.
I buy you a coffee.
I'm waiting for someone. For my dad.
Hi, sweetheart.
Hey. Welcome aboard Pancon Flight 257 to London. My time today will be 6 hours and 3 minutes.
I love you.
From all over this planet, simply vanished.
Chris.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
I've heard some doctors talking. It's not just here. It's all over the world.
One of these days, the sky's gonna be blue.
Chloe, are you okay?
Yeah, Mom and Raimi, they're both gone.
One of these days, the mountains will fall.
I really knew this was coming. The way it happened. How could she know that?
We put them to protect them from the darkest time in the history of this world.
The God my mother talked about would never do something like this.
You have a right to know we're gonna die. We're gonna No stairs, no flaps, no elevators, and if I run this thing right, no reverse thrust. I need some room. I just really need you to know how much I
the skies, everything.
So, sorry for the bandwidth issues. Does that come out choppy for you guys?
A little bit, but we got it.
Yeah, it worked.
Yeah, I don't want to confuse you with the deepness of this movie. So, have you seen either one of these versions of the movie?
No, I sure haven't. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, guy, are they even really the same movie?
Yeah, and in fact, I mean So there are kind of four main characters: the pilot dad, the reporter guy Buck, Chloe the daughter. I guess the other is not really a main character, but that there's this pastor who was left behind because he wasn't really a believer. He just said the words and whatever. So, but
he was like Josh's girlfriend from the last movie.
Yeah, I guess. If she was left behind, I don't know, but
she would be.
She would be.
Not a true Christian.
No, yeah. But and the difference, the Kirk Cameron version goes into a lot more. The pilot lands the plane after the rapture in the Kirk Cameron version, and I mean that happens, probably halfway through the film, and then there's another half that happens after that. The whole Nic Cage one, the vast majority of the film is just what goes on in the airplane, and for me, the narrative was much more interesting in the Kirk Cameron one, even if the acting wasn't halfway as good, and the film sets and all that were a lot cheaper looking and junky, but it was easier to watch really the Kirk Cameron version than it was the Nicolas Cage one, just because there was so much more to the plot.
Yeah, there's a lot more stuff going on with the film.
Yeah, well, they developed the Antichrist, so they built up kind of in the early part of it about how the Antichrist was going to come about. And they didn't spell it out, but there were these developments, and anybody that's familiar at all with Revelation and end times prophecy from the Christian Bible would recognize, okay, well, they're setting this up to happen.
As a side note, I always knew the Antichrist would be a white guy. Just saying.
Yeah, well, he's apparently Russian too, so Nikolai or something. But it's completely absurd the way they set it up in the Kirk Cameron film. I don't know. Do you want me to go into this now, or do you want to hold off on that?
Yeah, just go into the Kirk Cameron one, then we can discuss the Nic Cage one together.
Sure. So, but the idea was that there was a news, bulletin that comes across like while they're rushing through airports or something like this, and the president has been killed. I mean, apparently, the president wasn't Christian to get. They didn't want to say that he was Christian and got raptured, so they made him get killed. And
who's saying? Is that
the CNN or some news agency that's reporting this on the news, and instead of going through the regular constitutional succession for presidents, they decide to hand over power to the UN.
Huh.
Right, like there's nobody anywhere in the United States that would say, "Oh, okay, we'll just do it this way this time."
The vice president's like, God damn it.
You're right. It was my turn. So yeah, I mean that whole thing is completely absurd. And then the ending that involves kind of the big reveal of the Antichrist guy is also just really bizarre and dumb, and he's apparently got these kind of magical powers, and he's sitting in this conference room with these world leaders, and he's shooting a couple people, and I mean, like Jedi mind trick kind of stuff. And then when everybody leaves, the reporter guy Buck, who was for some reason invited to attend this meeting with these world leaders, this private meeting. He's asking all of the people, and he's the only one that the Jedi mind trick stuff didn't work on. And they were all like, yes, it was a terrible tragedy, and how these people shot themselves. But now we're in the good hands of Nikolai, and he will save us. Right.
Sorry, I'm giggling. Don't mean to be distracted. I'm giggling.
Yeah. So, but I mean, that was the biggest difference between the two movies.
All right, Turtle.
That's a pretty big difference.
Yeah.
What'd you think of the Nic Cage version, as far as the film story? Either one of you guys.
Gavagai. Turtle, you go first.
Gabby's having identity issues. What do you think of the story, theme, plot of Left Behind?
Well, just overall, I found it to be pretty boring. I would say at least 3 times during the watching of this movie, I looked at the amount of time I had left and was just like, ugh.
Me too.
Me too.
I will say, as compared to God's Not Dead, it is less preachy. The Nic Cage version is anyway, or at least I found it to be. I mean, clearly it's a Christian movie, but I thought, like, at the end there, and spoilers, if you're planning on watching this great movie, maybe check out at this point.
That's for you, Heavy. Spoiler alert.
But like when there's a danger of the plane not landing, and there becomes this like Nic Cage's character seems to be concerned about these people dying. Like, I thought he was going to convert all of them to Christianity. Like, I thought they were going to die, and he was going to, like, his job was going to be to convert all of them before they die. And that didn't happen. And in fact, I could be mistaken, but I don't think that anybody got converted in that movie.
Well, Nic Cage's character kind of did.
I guess kinda, but I mean, it's in a very like it's a like coming from the background you and I came from, Gavagai. Like, for me, a conversion would be like him, like, kneeling down and praying aloud to God for asking for forgiveness and inviting Jesus into his heart, and that never happened in the movie.
Right.
Like, he comes around in terms of, like, he comes to the conclusion that that his wife was right, and that this is from the Bible. So in that sense, he comes around. But if I was a Christian, I would say that Nic Cage was still not a true Christian.
Yeah, he didn't repent from his sins, quote unquote, necessarily.
No.
Or ask forgiveness.
Yeah, but as I speculated with Gavagai earlier, when you're stuck in a plane with big-breasted stewardess, I don't know. I mean, I kind of would give him a high five. I mean, really. That can't be a sin. It can't be.
So I did write down a handful of thoughts once I got towards the end of the movie of things that I kind of wanted to bring up, but I don't know are we just kind of doing overall thoughts on this at this point?
Well, I was trying to do plot theme first, and then acting and characters next, and then overall kind of impression.
Everything I wrote down was kind of like about specific moments in the movie.
That's fine. F it, dude. F it. We're doing it live. Go for it, man.
Okay. I thought most of this is just kind of like goofiness, but I thought like it was goofy that all these people. The one thing I will say that I thought was kind of fun about the movie was actually the moment of, like, how, like, her brother just suddenly disappeared, and
while he's hugging her.
Yeah, while he's hugging her. So I thought that was kind of a fun, moment to have that happen. Even though it's kind of like a little cheesy, but still, all things considered, I thought that was kind of fun. But then, after the moment of the rapture, like, there's chaos, which is understandable to an extent. I don't know that if this were to actually happen, that this chaos would be as extreme as this movie portrayed it. But one thing I thought was goofy, you'd have all these people that have disappeared off of the face of the earth, and then a bunch of the people who are still around, rather than like looting from the people who have disappeared, they're going and stealing from people who are still there. like just instead of grabbing that purse from the lady who's standing there, grab the purse that's on the ground from the person who's gone now. But I guess that's not how they're thinking. But I guess kind of like we're supposed to assume that the world is thrust into as much chaos as it was just because all of the Christians are gone, so we're just left with all the bad people. So I guess that's kind of why it's as horrific as it's supposed to be. One other thing I thought, like, it seemed, maybe I'm wrong, but it seems to me like it would be difficult to actually have a mid-air collision.
Yes.
Like, I feel like you'd have to like intentionally try and do it and then still be really lucky to actually collide with another plane. But, and granted, there's nobody flying the other plane, but he's aware of this and he's like trying to get off course. Does it really take that long to get off course from this other plane? I don't know.
No.
Yeah, so that was what I was thinking when that went down. Another thing I was thinking of too was like how, so apparently in the rules of this movie, like the children all get raptured up too.
I noticed that too.
So, which fine, like because in some Christianity sects or whatever, there's like an age of accountability thing. Whatever, fine. But like I was thinking, like, what if you were like just like 10 minutes too old for that cutoff? like you would, like, if you were born just 10 minutes later, God would have been like, okay, you're in, let's go. Or somebody else who's like, they're in like a church service or whatever, and they're about to go up and give the prayer or whatever they have to do to convert, and like they're on their way to there, and all of a sudden everybody in the church vanishes except for you. You're just a couple seconds too late. God damn it. But yeah. And then two other things. One was the really cheap jump scare that they did when she goes back to her parents' house, and she's looking for her mom, and she goes into the bathroom and the shower's running, and then she opens the door and she gasps as she opens it, even though there's nothing there except for water. I thought that was kind of a little cheap scare there. Not that big of a deal. But the other thing, and you saw it in the last thing I'll say, you saw it in the preview there, was when she's walking underneath the bridge, there's a bus that goes over the top of the bridge. But this is like 15, 20 minutes after the rapture has occurred. There's nobody in the bus, and the bus goes off the bridge sideways.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
I thought the same thing.
How do the physics of that work? I mean, there's nobody's foot on the pedal of that bus, and it's going off the bridge sideways.
People were like, a whole bunch of people just went missing. Let's push a bus off a bridge.
I guess. Yeah. So those are just a handful of the things that caught my eye as I was watching this gem.
Well, let me see if I can jog some more of your memory. So, so the only really preachy part to me was in the beginning, where Studley guy gets accosted by crazy religious woman and talks to him about Matthew or something or whatever, and the blonde chick rescues him, the daughter, and so that was the only part that I remember where there was any real, like, scripture stuff. But as I said in my comments as I was watching this, dude, The biggest tragedy, the biggest sin in this movie, I think, was Nic Cage's hair plugs. I found it's kind of not it doesn't have anything to do with the movie necessarily, but it's like someone with a bad facelift. Like, I found myself just staring at his hair. But that being said, I think he was the best actor in that movie. Anyone notice, this is the part that, okay, so much like God's Not Dead, all the bad people on the plane, you get a little more of their character on the plane. There's like a gambler, there's like a guy that's, obsessed with money. I don't know what Jordan Sparks, she was the mother, the African-American mother that her daughter disappeared.
Yeah. A little person.
Yeah, he was the gambler.
Oh, was he? Okay.
Yeah. But I thought when you're a little person, you couldn't get into heaven anyway. Isn't that in the Bible?
It depends on your doctrine.
Oh, okay. But did anybody notice the Muslim guy was not raptured? The one Muslim guy on the plane?
Well, he doesn't believe in God the right way.
No,
right.
Yeah.
But it was funny because there was a few minutes as they were trying to figure out what's going on, and then they rushed the cabin. And then I see the Muslim guy, and I'm literally like, blah! And I start cracking up. My girlfriend's like, what are you laughing at? I'm like, the Muslim guy didn't get raptured. That's so funny because it's such a slight dig to me, like we're right. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
To me, that was a bit of a cheap shot, I think. If they were really, like trying to say that there was like some all-powerful deity, hypothetically, like they could have took him, I guess, but I don't know.
But they're not trying to be inclusive in this movie.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. It's just to me it seemed a bit of a
I didn't understand why the people were rushing the cockpit. Like, what did they think they were going to accomplish?
They wanted to get Nic Cage's autograph before they died.
They thought the pilot made their people disappear.
That's a reasonable thought.
Right. The other thing too was what bothered me was the blonde chick. It's like she's in the mall. The car runs through the wall and almost hits her. She runs out to the car. A plane almost hits her. I'm just like, just stay away from this broad, dude. She's freaking bad luck. Just period.
What are the odds that a plane would fly out of the sky and hit her car? That is really, really unlikely.
Now here's the thing. I'm a huge fan of zombie movies. That is my, I'm into zombies like you're into Power Rangers. Like, it's like I love zombie movies, dude. So I enjoy like that apocalyptic chaos, like people running around crazy and stuff. But I couldn't for the life imagine me why they were running around that crazy. Like,
exactly.
If you saw a bunch of clothes, immediately I would think, other than where did everybody go, there's going to be a shit ton of naked people running around somewhere. Like, where are all these naked people? Like, why isn't there, like, And then, okay, so the blonde chick loses the kid, I think, at least once, right? In the mall.
Yeah.
So she doesn't even question anything. Oh, all his belongings are here. His clothes are here. I'll go to the hospital.
She was
right. Exactly. That's true. So she goes to the hospital, right, where it's just chaos. Like, people trying to run. I don't know why they're trying to rush the hospital. I guess the idea is that they're trying to find out if their loved ones are there for whatever reason. But if you notice, this is the funniest part to the movie to me. So she tries to get into the hospital. It's packed. She can't get in. So she goes around the side, right, and then she like bashes in the window. Do you guys remember this scene? And she breaks it's a door, and it's like 4. Okay, so first of all, it's like one of those extender rope things that like see at the bank that has the post. She taps that thing so light, and the whole fucking window goes and breaks. And I'm like, it's made of like rock candy or something. Then the opening of the window is like 3.5 feet by 3.5 feet. And she crawls through it like it's like a foot-by-foot window. Like, she's all like super like careful. She has like a foot on each side of her. She's not getting touched by anything. Like, it was so...
Yeah, they showed every inch of her getting in that window, too. I thought that was weird, too. Like her positioning of her hands. Like, oh, she's got to look out for the glass. And it's like, okay, you can just edit past this part.
Yeah, it was so awkward watching her try to get to that window. She was obviously in no danger. And I was like, I had my face in my hands, just like fucking laughing, dude. Because the stuff in this movie happens for no reason. Like you said, the chaos was, it was just crazy. Like the guy, the girl's walking home and some guy gets like shot out of a window, or I don't know if gets thrown out or shot out, but the dude falls him out with a shotgun.
Yeah.
Does he shoot the guy through the window? I don't remember, but
Yeah,
apparently
he shoots the guy through the window. She sees him getting blown out through the window, and then the guy with the shotgun comes out and like cocks the shotgun at her, and then tells, motions for her to get out of there.
Well, and it was a scene transition too, because on the plane, the Muslim guy reaches into a bag and pulls something out, and the implication is, oh no, it leaves you thinking, oh, he must have shot the little person because they were arguing or whatever.
Yeah, and then apparently there's no blood in this universe, because if you get shot with a shotgun, first of all, he flies through the door, which, there's no... I mean, apparently it's just a piece of glass that... If you're going to get shot with that much power to go through a glass door, with as much force as he did, there'd be fucking blood everywhere. I mean, I'm not trying to nitpick, but I was like, what the fuck just happened? Like what's going on? But the whole thing was retarded. She goes home and her mom's not there, and this whole idea that she ends up seeing everybody on the plane at the end is stupid. I just didn't get it was pointless. It was so boring from beginning to end. They jump back and forth in storylines, and it was so boring. Like, I remember watching it, and I was like an hour out, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna take a break and get something to eat. I thought there was maybe 20 minutes left. There was an hour of this movie left, and it was just bad. And then there was no Antichrist. Spoiler alert. Because I was saying,
that's for the sequel.
Yeah, I was like, isn't there supposed to be something bad that happens after the rapture? Like, isn't something really bad supposed to happen? And so I looked it up. I was like, yeah, where's the Antichrist guy? Now the sequel's going to be badass if there's an Antichrist, But the whole idea of her like lighting the gasoline, and he lands the plane, and it's just the colliding with the plane. The whole movie, the premises that all the things leading up to the end were so unrealistic to me. It just took me out of the whole thing.
Well, the other thing I think that works against it too is that they tried to make it like a mystery. Like, what happened? And
yeah.
So we all know what happened. Everyone who's watching this movie knows what happened. Let's just move on to the next part. But
right? Yeah. That drove me nuts in both of the movies. That people are running around trying to piece together what could this mean? What could it be? Our culture is saturated with this whole idea of rapture. Everybody's been exposed to it on some level. That's the first thing that's going to happen if all of the Christians disappear. Is they're going to go, okay, the rapture, because they know, they're familiar with it.
Did anyone else think it was completely silly that Nic Cage figured it out? He's like, let me look at that chick's bag or purse or something, and then he finds like the booklet that says prayer study next Sunday, and he's like, that's the light bulb for you, buddy.
Yeah, that was the thing that confirmed it. But I did like that when he went through his co-pilot's stuff. Like, he's going through his wallet. Everything he takes out, he throws on the floor, like, rather than like put it back in the wallet. Like, come on, man.
Doesn't have time.
Keep this place clean.
And was it me, or was like the little person like unnecessarily mean?
Yes.
Like why are you so mean?
He's an atheist, probably.
Yeah.
Oh, he's like, yeah, and then
typical little person.
And then why what confused me was, does anybody know why the mother of the child was not raptured?
She wasn't a Christian.
No, well, okay, but I assumed. I just assumed she was. I don't know why. I just did.
The black lady in the plane?
Yeah.
Probably because she's carrying around a gun and threatening people with it.
No, that was the air marshal's gun.
Yeah, I know. I just thought that was ridiculous. I'm glad that they at least explained where she got that gun, because that was like, what? What just happened?
Right.
I like her rationale was the the baby daddy, stole the kid, somehow paid to have her kid stolen. Completely ignoring the fact that other people on the plane have disappeared as well.
Well,
right.
It's an elaborate trick.
Yeah, I'm just like, this is what I'm saying. Like, the plot just take me so out of it. Like, the stuff that happened, I'm like, please let this be over. Like, this is just
right.
It was bad. And,
if I could go back to the kids being raptured.
Oh yeah.
That whole idea, and that was in both of the movies. I'm sure it's probably in the book.
Next time we'll read the book.
Yeah, no thanks.
Yeah, Gavin, can you watch all movie versions and the books?
No. Pass. But the whole reason for that is it's based on this kind of doctrine of the age of accountability, which is popular among a lot of Christian fundamentalists, and that it's the idea that until you're old enough to comprehend and make decisions about the Bible or about Christianity and whatever, that if you die before that age, you get to go to heaven no matter what, because you haven't had a chance to make the decision for yourself. But that concept is really not spelled out anywhere in the Bible, and there's good reason to doubt that would be the case based on some scriptural passages and things. This whole idea of predestination and the whole kind of Calvinist idea, which is very firmly founded in Scripture, kind of refutes that idea. So that was one thing about the children being disappeared. I mean, it's all this kind of happy clappy. It's got to be a just God, and a just God wouldn't do that. That's where it all kind of derives from. But you don't get that from the Bible. And then the other thing is, I was wondering, because there's a lady, the old lady on the plane seems to have Alzheimer's. And I was wondering, well, okay, so she didn't get raptured, but her husband did.
Every couple, there's like one person who was a Christian and one person who wasn't.
Right.
There's constantly these halves of couples, which I thought was weird throughout the movie.
You know what I think that is? I think that is, there are a lot of couples that have mixed views on things, and it's that little dig where it's like, you should listen to your wife, or you should listen to your husband who's a Christian. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That's how I kind of read it. It's like, if you've ever been in a relationship where you had not opposing views necessarily, but differing views, that can be an issue. And I think it's kind of one of those things where it's like, maybe you should listen to your significant other.
All right,
anyway,
this is going to. I was going to say something really stupid. What about women that were pregnant? What about them? What about the babies?
Gone.
I know, it's a stupid question.
No, it's a legitimate question.
It's a legitimate question.
Yeah.
Well, it's a stupid question because it's a stupid subject, but.
What about conjoined twins, where one of the conjoined twins was a Christian and the other one was not?
But all babies are atheists anyway. You've heard that, right?
Well, yeah. There's that.
Well, anyway, there's a certain man with a letter in front of his name that said that, I think. But anyway, I don't know who said it. I'm just going off the weird end. Excuse me.
No, that's okay.
If you ask Seitan Bruggencate, even children know that God exists.
But I was going to say, related to the Alzheimer's person, does the age of accountability thing apply to them once their brain kind of gets beyond a certain point of I don't know, disintegration, for lack of a better word? would they get a free pass? So all of the severe Alzheimer's patients get raptured?
Apparently not.
Is a question mark. Yeah, well, I mean, maybe she wasn't far enough gone, so there's probably like a cutoff.
The question is, would Dean Cain's mom from God's Not Dead be raptured?
Yeah.
Right? Like, is that what you're talking about?
I'll go ahead and make that call. No. And here's why. Because with kids have their capacity to make decisions is going to increase. But if you're an adult and you're headed into Alzheimer's, you've had your chance, and guess what? Time's up.
Well, but
I'm
Alzheimer's.
That call.
Okay. We've had the decision handed down. But Alzheimer's can actually make significant changes to people's personalities and things. People who are very reserved and whatever, nursing homes will have to like lock down the bedrooms and things because they'll be sneaking into other people's rooms trying to have sex, and
Yes, they're only getting worse. They're
right.
Even less Christian. So
if you were a Christian all your life until you had Alzheimer's, and then didn't give a rip about Jesus anymore and started cursing or whatever terrible thing that might happen, what happens to your soul? Is it what you did all your whole life, or is it only
it's that last minute, whatever you were that last minute?
Yeah,
that's the thing that counts.
This is the question only Veckel can answer.
Let's get him in here.
Or Dodge answering.
Well, the graves would have been empty too at the same time.
Yes, yeah, and that wasn't addressed in any of the movies.
It seemed like something would have come up about that. Maybe you're in a church service and you're burying dear Uncle George, and all of a sudden he's gone.
Yeah, wouldn't
no? It sounds facetious, but it's the point.
Yeah.
It's almost like there are two versions of the second coming. It's like one. Now I could be wrong, and some Christian out there may correct me, but it's like in one version, Christ returns with a shout. The whole world sees it, witnesses this event. He comes. The dead in Christ rise. Then the ones that are alive that are in Christ, everyone goes to meet him in the air. The people that are left behind, they get wiped out. They get incinerated. Now that's one version. Then there's another version, something about he comes back, takes people up, and then he rules for 1,000 years or something. It's like the verses are not real clear.
Well,
to me, it's like there's two different versions of the second coming, in a way.
There's
the Nic Cage version, and then the
Well, anyway.
There are some things that are disagreed about because the book of Revelation and other biblical prophecy that are that are taken as end times prophecy, quote unquote, are ambiguous and intentionally left ambiguous because they don't want people to have hard, cut and dry answers as to what's going on, or what to expect at any given point. So there's the rapture, which is supposed to be, like you said, there's supposed to be kind of a shout and a trumpet, and then everybody gets taken up who's a believer, and then also all of the dead people are taken up. Right. And then there's this period of 7 years of tribulation. And I think a portion of them are supposed to be peaceful, and then a portion of them are supposed to be, full of trouble.
The last 3 years or something like that.
Yeah, well, and then Jesus is supposed to return again. This is kind of I don't know if I want to say the most popular. This is the one that I was taught most and encountered most frequently. And then after the tribulation, Jesus returns again. There's this battle of Armageddon. It's a bloodbath, and then there's new heaven and new earth are created, and there's a 1,000-year reign. And then after the 1,000-year reign, there's another period where Satan is loosed from heaven to go around and tempt people again, and and take some more people to hell with him, which is, how great is that?
Yeah, supposedly Christ rules for 1,000 years, and then there's the final judgment or something.
Yeah.
But it's like there's two. Like I said, there's two different versions of this event.
Yeah. Yeah, and then there's disagreements about whether the rapture will happen, pre-trib, mid-trib, or post-trib. So
it depends on what doctrine you're going with or what church you're attending. So even the movie, it sounds like the movies didn't get it right anywhere.
Yeah, well, and that was one of the things on my note was that there was no trumpet sound in either of the movies, and no kind of announcement. There's no rising of the dead, and that kind of raises another interesting question. Is, okay, let's say some event happens where people, large numbers of people go missing. How far deviated would it have to be before Christians said, well, this can't be the rapture? Right? I mean, so there's no trumpet sound. Maybe all of the children are left. None of the children get raptured. Well, is that still the rapture? What if some people we know were not professed Christians at all? And like that whole Leftovers series or movie that was, what was it, HBO?
HBO series, yeah.
Yeah, it takes a rapture event, but has a lot of things that were not described in the Bible, and it's apparently very random about who went missing. So some people were saying it was the rapture, and other people were just saying it was this event, and we don't have an explanation for it. So
yeah, you're right. It says that when it happens, everyone's going to know it happened. And what happens is there's going to be there's going to be the trumpet and all that, and everyone's going to see him coming from the east to the west and all that. And, there won't be no doubt about this event.
Yeah, but I think the point of Left Behind was that it wasn't even though it was a religious movie, and it has the whole origin, was a series of Christian books, right?
Yes.
But I think they try to make this way more mainstream, in the sense that they want people to go see it, almost like it's like a Stephen King, like there's a mystery to it, even though we all know what the answer is, which is like
science fiction.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do feel like they tried to make it more mainstream. I don't know how successful they were, but I mean, even just having Nicolas Cage, like, I have no idea. I was not under the impression that Nicolas Cage was any kind of like super Christian. I didn't even know he was a Christian.
I don't know if he is. If you read the comments on a certain movie database found on the internet, a lot of the comments are like, oh, Nic Cage just must have had them pay. He must have asked for his payment in cash and just got the hell out of there, kind of thing. Like, or he must have cast a check right away because, like that kind of thing. Where he's never been any sort of vocal Christian as far as I know.
Yeah, me either.
But he does have sort of a weird history of like, allegedly have a weird history of like being, like rich broke. Ever heard that phrase? Or like being celebrity broke. It's kind of like when you're famous and you're a celebrity, but you're always in debt and you've lost your house. But you know what I mean? Like they can't handle their money. That's like Nic Cage kind of MO. So yeah.
No, they should have had Samuel Jackson as Nicolas Cage character.
That would have been fun.
Sam Jackson.
Put a few snakes on those planes.
I'm tired of this motherfucking rapture on this motherfucking plane.
That would have been a more interesting film.
That would have been, yeah, that would have been actually.
Yeah, y'all kept talking about stuff on the plane happening, and I'm thinking Samuel L. Jackson. He could have pulled it off. He can do anything, man.
He should have been the professor in God's Not Dead. Because how cool would that be?
Too.
It would have been like he He came in all Pulp Fiction style. Motherfucker, did I stutter? Fucking cursing at the kid. All right, I'll sign it. It's cool. So anyway, that if nobody has anything else, I mean, we're approaching the 2-hour mark. That was our first Christian sort of mini film festival. I'm probably, going to end up watching the sequel to God's Not Dead. Because why wouldn't I?
Yeah,
How could there be a sequel?
I think it's different characters.
Yeah, the sequel is supposedly set in Arkansas in a public school, and a teacher, mentions something about her faith, and is sued by a student, and like the student's an atheist, and the teacher has the support of all of the school board. I mean, the student has the support of the school board. Everybody's against this teacher. That there's a blogger who wrote about her experience, or his experience. I don't know if it was a guy or a girl.
The guy.
Yeah, as a teacher in, what was it, Mississippi, and me, I'm in Arkansas. I can also vouch for this, that in the South, in the Bible Belt, that's not how things roll in the public schools. The teachers frequently make comments about their faith. They make negative comments about evolution. They make negative comments about other religions and things. They get called out sometimes, but most of the time they have the support, the strong support of the community and the school board or administration and things. So.
Yeah, it was funny. His blog, I think you linked it to me and said, the sequel to God's Not Dead happened to me, but in reverse, or something like that.
Right.
That sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's like, the separation of church and state. And like a person in school, maybe can kind of share their faith or something, or they know they're Christian, but they can't proselytize. If that's the way I understand it.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, and if they do, they should be reprimanded because it's a government job thing, kind of thing. Like them clerks that are going, oh, well, I ain't gonna marry these gay people. But it's their job. That's their job. It's because they're not in a nonprofit religious organization. Nonprofit like churches, they have the legal right to refuse gay marriage. They can refuse to marry straight couples. That's their right under law. But if you're in a public office like the clerks, and then in school, that's different. I think ain't schools considered a public office or a public thing?
Public schools, yeah, they receive public funding. They're
part of the government.
Part of the government, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So they can't proselytize.
No.
Well, I'm sure we'll get a fair and even-handed account in the film God's Not Dead.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it boggles my mind. I mean, there isn't, to my knowledge, a whole lot of like atheist-driven movies that are out there to crush Christianity. I don't know if you guys can think of any, but it kind of makes me think that they need to have this. It's like a banner that they have to wave. I don't know if it's a reassurance thing. It's kind of, to me, when people make movies like this that have a straight agenda or sort of this propaganda, it just, to me, just says insecurity all over it.
Yeah.
If I can jump back to God's Not Dead, because there's one other thing I did want to bring up, and kind of touched on something you just mentioned, but I do feel like in the way that those characters act in God's Not Dead is almost the exact opposite way of how it is in reality, because like you say, like the Christians are like, they're so insecure about these things, and in general atheists are the ones who are like kind of more laid back and relaxed, and that's part of what that blogger was talking about. Like, he's talking about his experience and how he was trying to stay neutral, trying to stay out of it, and it just kept on getting pushed in his face. And like, it's exactly in the, like, God's Not Dead, the first one, Josh, our main hero character, he's trying to go about his everyday life, but then the mean atheist is pushing it into his face,
right?
And so I find that so frustrating and disheartening to see it portrayed. Yeah, and the other thing too is like the other good example in that first movie is the Duck Dynasty guy and the woman reporter who ends up having cancer. Like, just how she's essentially attacking this Duck Dynasty guy, and he's just trying to, be laid back. Hey, it's cool, man, whatever, I got my thing, and you can have happiness too, but I'm not going to shove it down your throat. It's just like exactly the opposite of reality. But
yeah, in reality, that shit gets shoved in my face like all the time.
A little bit.
It's the whole persecution complex thing that, and there's a what's the word? It's almost contradictory too, because on one hand they, or at least they used to be trying to say, well, we have a majority. The majority is a Christian nation. We're, they had the moral majority, quote unquote, group that said, well, most of us believe this way, and that the liberals are the minority and whatever, and but at the same time they're being constantly persecuted and scorned and laughed at and whatever, and it's just not the case. My wife is a science teacher in a public school, and anytime they have a unit that covers evolution, and anytime that she talks about like the age of the Earth or whatever, she had one student in there who was very very, I guess, I don't know, homeschooled, but taught the creation science stuff, and every time that she would say millions of years, he would just blurt out thousands. Every single time. I don't know. It's so silly. The whole idea. I don't know.
Yeah, you can tell when they're homeschooled. But why is the kid even in public school now?
I don't know. A lot of families will do homeschooling for a certain period of time, or in a private school, to I guess to kind of give the kid a good foundation, and then throw them out into public school because they're going to be out in the world is the idea. I mean, I know several families that did things that way. I had one friend who was in public school for a few years, and then he was kind of getting into some trouble, and then so his parents pulled him out, put him in a private school through the end of middle school, and then he came back to public school and high school, because they wanted to pull him out. I guess they thought he was getting influenced, in bad ways in the public school. Well, he was the same kid when he came back to, and found, as many people that were, quote unquote troublemakers, in the private school that they put him into to remove him from problems or whatever. But
that's funny. Well, we're reaching the 2-hour mark, and look at that. We spiked to 6 whole viewers, so it makes me sad. Heavy.
Hey, viewers.
What is that? We do this for the lols, buddy.
Absolutely.
For the lols. Anybody have any last thoughts on anything? I think we pretty much covered it all. I'm trying, the day that any more Kirk Cameron movies come out on Netflix, you guys let me know, because we're watching it. We're doing it.
The only thing I can say at the end is that the God's Not Dead, whatever, it could have been a better movie. It could have been more honest on certain points. Because there was, the only one that was an atheist that I saw was the girl with the cancer. The professor was not an atheist, but they kept characterizing him as one. he was a pissed off Christian. He never was an atheist, as far as I can get from the character in the movie.
Yeah, but
that was a huge misrepresentation right there.
Why would you bring honesty into religion, though?
Well, there are Christians out there that are honest. A lot of the ones we meet here on YouTube, they're not representative of a lot that are out there in the real world, I think.
Well, and even here in the G+ community, there are some people. What's that guy, Adam? And even oh shoot, there's a list of guys that are decent, and probably girls too that interact here. They just don't pop into our heads like G-Man Veckel and Matt Bell and Matt Slick and things, because those are the people that we deal with that are, so much more obnoxious and annoying that.
But you know what, though? That's our fault.
Yeah.
Because we deal with them, which is the problem. If we just didn't deal with them, they would be in their own little echo chambers, and no one would ever hear from them. But
right.
But we're gluttons for punishment, and yeah. So,
absolutely.
All right, everybody. I'm gonna end it here. Hope everybody had a good time. View, subscribe, like, and all that hoot nanny. So we will see you in 2 weeks, which is August 2nd. All right. Have a good one, everybody.
Bye.